All right, y'all. Welcome back to our second day of Algebra 2. Today we are on page 2 of your workbook, and we are going to talk about day 2 of topic 1.1. So if you remember the first day, we talked about domain and range and x and y intercepts. Today we are going to talk about positive intervals, negative intervals, and increase and decrease. Okay, so again, the first thing we need is a couple of definitions for what each one of these things are. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about positive interval. So over here on the left side, we are going to come up with a definition for positive interval. Okay, now I think we all know that positive means greater than 0. But if we were thinking on a graph, the positive interval would be the part of the graph that is above the x-axis. So the part of the graph that is above the x-axis. Remember, the x-axis is the one that goes side to side. All right, the next thing is the negative interval, which is very similar. It is just the opposite. So negative would mean below 0. So therefore, that would mean the part of the graph that is below the x-axis. So we have a positive interval and a negative interval. Okay, so it doesn't matter if the graph is going, up or down, as long as it is above the x-axis, that's positive. If it is below the x-axis, that is negative. Okay. The other definition that we'll need for this section of our notes is what we call the increasing interval. So increasing means it's going up, right? If something is increasing, it is getting bigger. And the interval, again, is like a range of numbers. So when we look at that on a graph, we want to see which part of the graph is increasing from left to right, just like how you read a book. You read a book from the left to the right, it's going to be the same thing here. If the graph is going up from left to right, we call that increase. If it is going down from left to right, we call that decrease. Okay, so the increasing interval is the part of the graph that goes up. I'm going to put an up arrow from left to right. Whoops. From left to right. So if the graph is going up from left to right, we call that increasing. And again, the same thing vice versa. If it's decreasing, that is the part of the graph going down from left to right. For those of you that are into slope or remember your Algebra 1 days, increasing would mean it has a positive slope. Decreasing would mean that it has a negative slope. Okay, so that's another way that you can think about it. Increasing is positive slope, decreasing is negative slope. So let's say we wanted to do this first problem here. Try it 3a. Okay, it says for what interval is the function 2x plus 10 positive? Okay, now in order for us to do this, we need to graph it. Just like we talked about in the last section, we would use Desmos to graph this. Okay, we are going to use Desmos to help us figure out what this is. So if we got onto our Desmos, which again, I'll be more than happy to show you if you're not familiar with it, and we typed in that equation, 2x plus 10, it would give us a graph, okay, that is going to look something like this. It has a y-intercept of 10, and it's going to have an x-intercept of negative 5. And then it's linear, right? There's no square in this, there's no cube, so it's just going to be a straight line. We are just going to connect the dots. And remember, we always put arrows on each side of these graphs, okay? So that would be the graph that we get from Desmos. So this wants to know what is the interval where the graph is positive, okay? And positive means greater than 0, so that means it's above the x-axis. So we want to know which part of this is above the x-axis. As you can see, the whole line is not above the x-axis. There's only part of it. So from this point right here to all the way up, right? It keeps going forever. That part there in blue, right? That's the only part above the x-axis. Okay, from there all the way up is positive, all right? So this value, we always use the x values. We never worry about the y values, okay, in this case. So at negative 5 is where it starts. and then it keeps going positive. It's positive, 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 positive forever, right? It's never going to stop. It stays positive. It never gets below this line on this side of the graph. So if it keeps going forever, we call that infinity. Okay, so from -5 to infinity. Now we need to put brackets or parentheses around whatever it might be. Okay, remember, infinity always gets a parenthesis. And whenever you talk about positive and negative, okay, at that point right there, okay, it's not really positive, it's not really negative, it's actually 0, right? Because that's the intercept. So we are also going to put a parenthesis around that, okay, because it doesn't really include -5. -5 would actually give us an answer of 0 if we plugged it in, which in that case isn't really positive, all right? So that would be the positive interval. We're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to do the negative interval for part B. Okay, the negative is just the opposite. So if positive was above the line, negative would then have to be the part below the line. So that would be from here all the way down. This part here in green would be our negative interval. So once again, it starts at -5, but now we're going this way, right? This line is going this way forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So no matter what x value you pick, it's always going to be a negative number, and it keeps going forever. So till -infinity now, okay? And infinity always gets a parenthesis, and like we talked about before, that's not actually negative, that's just 0. So that would give us another parenthesis, okay? So -infinity to positive infinity. All right, so that is positive and negative intervals. The last part of this section is increasing or decreasing, okay? And it's going to be a little bit confusing with the positive and negative. But remember, increase goes up, decrease goes down. So if we flipped our paper over, on workbook over to page 3, okay? And we look at example 4. It says for what values of x is each function increasing, for what value of x is each function decreasing. So once again, in order for us to do this, we have to graph it, okay? So Desmos, or a graphing calculator if you have it, but Desmos will work just as well. If we were to graph this, hopefully you remember what shape this will be. Anytime something has a square, what shape will that thing be in? But if not, that's okay. We'll get there. 2, 3, 4. It is going to cross at 4 and 0. So this is 4, this is 0. Okay. And then it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes 2, -4 is the low point. So it is going to be in the shape of a parabola. So that is what the graph would look like on our Desmos. Okay. And we're going to call this point 2, -4. So we can remember what that is. All right. So now we want to look at this graph and figure out where it is increasing. So the part of the graph that is going up from left to right. So we always start on the left side of a graph, okay? And if we started over here, this side I would be going down, right? I'm going down on this part of the graph. So that would not be the increasing side. So I'm going down, 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 down. Then I get right here and I stop going down. Okay, so once I get to this point, then from left to right, the graph is starting to go up, 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 and it keeps going up forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. So this point right here, this x value, this value of 2 is where the graph starts to increase. From 2 until, remember, it goes this way forever. It never, ever, ever, ever stops. And if I go this way, that would be positive infinity. So from 2 to positive infinity, okay? Infinity always has a parenthesis. 2, once again, it's not really increasing. It kind of turns right there. It's like a stopping point. So that always will get a parenthesis as well, okay? So that would be the increasing part. The decreasing interval, in this case, would just be the other side. Because again, if I start over here, I'm going down, 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 until I get to that same point as before, right? I'm going down, 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 right? So this whole green part is the decreasing part. It's kind of hard to see my colors there. I'll have to pick better colors next time for y'all. But this side of the graph is decreasing. So way over here, remember, it goes this way forever and ever and ever. So that would be negative infinity, right? Way over here is negative infinity. We always use the x's. So from negative infinity, it goes down, 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 until I get to positive 2. That would be my decreasing interval. Okay, so from negative infinity to positive 2. All right? One more. Let's do B real quick so that we have at least one more example we can look at. So once again, we're going to graph this thing. Okay, this one is a little bit uglier in Desmos. It crosses the x-axis at 1.5 and the y-axis at negative 3. So at negative 3, it crosses there. So we're going to go like so. There we go. Okay, so we have the positive, or we have the graph of it. All right. So let's pick out what's increasing and what's decreasing. Increasing interval. Remember, we always start on the left side of the graph, just like a book. You start on the left. In this graph, as we move to the right, the graph is going up, 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 up forever. Right? It always goes up. It never ever stops. There's an arrow on both sides. So from negative infinity way over here to positive infinity way over here, it's always increasing. Okay, it is always, always, always increasing. It always has a positive slope, right? That slope is positive. You're going uphill, basically. Okay, so it's increasing. If it is decreasing, we would be going downhill, right? So the line should look something like a negative slope. It would be going down, which in this problem never happens, right? This graph never goes downhill. It's always going uphill. So this would have no decreasing interval. So I'm going to write none, or you can write not applicable, or whatever it might be. Okay. So we have now talked about domain, range, x-intercept, y-intercept, positive interval, negative interval, increasing or decreasing. That is the entire first section. Okay. So now is the chance for you to log on to your Math Excel, answer the 1.1 day 2 problems, and see how you do it. And if you have questions, please let me know. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.